Guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm doing a video talking about Ellie's diagnosis and then her process through the bone marrow transplant and how she's doing and all that kinds of stuff. So I thought that I would share this because I have mentioned before that Ellie has Hurler syndrome, but I haven't gone into detail about it on here. I have posted before on like Facebook and Instagram whenever she was first diagnosed a little bit about it, but I wanted to go into more detail because I feel like there's only so much that you can say like in a post, but I feel like you can say more through a video and get more information out there like that. So I'll try to write a timeline of everything that happened, so I'm pretty sure I'll miss something or, you know, get things out of order, stuff like that, but I tried my best to remember how everything happened. But it was a pretty chaotic time going through that, so I may have stuff mixed up. Anyways, so I'm going to try to go through this the best that I can. So I had Ellie May 1st, 2020. And then I remember whenever we got the call that Ellie was diagnosed with Hurler syndrome, or they suspected that she had it. And I was at my sister-in-law's house. We were about to go back home, and we were in the car, me, my husband, and the kids. We were in the car, and I got the phone call from Genzyme, which they are the ones that I believe they do the newborn screening and they check all that to make sure everything looks normal. Well, they gave me a call and they said that her enzyme levels looked abnormal and they suspected that she probably had Hurler syndrome. So Hurler syndrome is a genetic disorder and it comes from both the parents. Although we are carriers, we do not have symptoms. So we had no idea that we were carriers of this. So she was born without an enzyme in her body to break down sugars. And if you didn't know, sugar, if it's not broken down and it builds up in your body, causes a lot of problems. So they told us that the sugar, it builds up in all vital organs. So basically everywhere in her body, builds up in the bones and stuff like that. So she would have a lot of skeletal issues, neurological issues, developmental delays, like vital organs would have problems. I mean, just everything you could think of she was going to have a problem with. They told us that the most common symptoms that are first seen with kids with Hurler syndrome is a lot of them are born with a belly button hernia. So she did have that, but whenever we took her to the doctor or to her pediatrician, she didn't know what Hurler syndrome was, and just by seeing a belly button hernia, she was like, oh, this will go away on its own. It's very common, which is true. It is common for kids to have it, and a lot of times it's nothing and it'll just go away. But she did have that, and that was really the only symptom or sign of having Hurlers that we seen, besides, you know, just getting it on the newborn screening. Anyways, so they told us that we would have to go to a geneticist to get confirmation through a urine sample, and they did. They looked at her GAG levels, and they came back very, very wonky. So they said that, you know, it was confirmed there that she had Hurler syndrome, and they told us that we had two options, that it was either to do enzyme replacement therapy once a week for the rest of her life, or we do a bone marrow transplant. So after we were given our options, we decided to go with a bone marrow transplant because we didn't want to risk damaging anything to do with your brain or her brain. So we got in touch with people through the MPS Society, and they were such a great help. We got in touch with them because we didn't even know what this was. So we talked to them further about what Hurler's was, what this meant for her, what her future would look like, stuff like that. So they were such a great help, and also and comforting us that, you know, there are options and we will figure it out. It'll be okay. So we decided where we were going to go get her transplant done, and they told us that she couldn't have her transplant until she was at least 3 months old. So we had a little bit of waiting to do, but they told us in the meantime that we needed to do enzyme replacement therapy, just to help her body out as much as possible. So this would give her the enzyme throughout her body besides the brain. And also, another side note, any damage from hurlers or like the sugar buildup, you can't reverse that. So it was very important that we got the transplant as soon as possible for, you know, best possible outcome for Ellie. So they wanted to test all of our family members. They ended up just testing myself, my husband, and Emery. So we all got tested, and it turned out that Emery was the perfect match for Ellie, and she just so happened to be that 25% that ended up not being a carrier. So exactly 3 months after Ellie was born, we made the trip up to Ohio for her transplant. Like, we were told that it would probably last around 3 or so months total for this whole process. So we were thinking, okay, 3 months isn't too bad. Still sucked, but 3 months we can manage that and deal with that being here and then being away from family. Well, it ended up being 8 months total that we were up there. So that was a big shock to us that we had to stay 8 months instead of around 3 months, all this stuff. So we ended up having the transplant on September 11th, 2020. So, let's see, May, June, July, August, September. So, a little over 4 months old. And I believe that she had to do 9 days worth of chemo. So then after the transplant happened, we were still in the hospital for a while, because she got very sick from the chemo, obviously. So she got sick from the chemo, so there was a lot of throwing up, there's a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of her just being very weak and tired. She got the feeding tube in her nose because during chemo, a lot of patients, they get sores in their mouth. I also think it has something to do with them being like nauseous. They started therapy for her because they told me that, you know, how I think they said however long they are recovering from the chemo is kind of like how far it pushes them back. So I believe she was in the hospital, I believe, for like 3 months straight after the transplant, and they were like, okay, so she should be like pretty much 3 months behind. So they started therapy for her. She was doing all the therapy, so she's doing occupational, physical, and speech therapy 3 times a week. So after about 3 months, we were released to go to the Ronald McDonald House, which is where my husband and Emery were staying. So after we were released, she was admitted a few times after that, because it's very common for kids after chemo to kind of like relapse into being sick again. And also, you got to think, all of their immune system is taken from them, so you have less, or they have less than what they were born with at that point. They take everything from them. So so she was very, very, very prone to getting sick. So she did get sick a couple times, and they knew that was probably going to happen. So she was admitted a couple times after that. I believe only the longest time that we got readmitted was maybe like 2 weeks. And then the rest of those times, it was probably about a week at a time that we were in the hospital, and then we got released back to the Ronald McDonald House. So a lot of going back and forth. And while we were in the Ronald McDonald House, she was still on the tube. She was on the tube for a while. So we were doing feeds through that. but she also was on, I believe it was 11 medications at one time. So she had to be off of all medications. She had to be taking a bottle or something by mouth, being able to eat and get nutrition that way. And then she also had to have her port out before we could leave. So we waited on all that to be removed and for her to slowly recover, take a bottle again, stuff like that. Okay, so we came home, all was well, all still is well. The only, I guess, still remaining effects of the transplant is that Ellie is not eating solids, or like she's not really eating like she should be, like a typical 3-year-old. The only signs of hurlers right now is her ribs do go in, and a lot of the cases with hurlers, either their ribs will go in very far or they'll pop out. So her ribs do go in, but she does get x-rays for that just to make sure it's not pushing on anything or affecting her being able to breathe and have her lungs expand. So far she's doing good. They don't think that it'll be a problem in the future either, so that's good news. She only has a small curve at the bottom of her spine, but it's nothing severe. It's very, very mild. So that's also good news. She has no sleep apnea. She has no vision problems. Her hips are good. Her joints are good. Her hearing is great. So far she is doing wonderful. So the doctors actually said that her case is one of the best that they have ever seen, and I honestly believe that it has to do with her having a related donor. A lot of the other kids that I see, I don't think I've seen one with a related donor, and yet, or even them being a perfect match. So we got the best case scenario. So I know for a fact that Emery was born first to be her sister's donor. If it had been reversed, this wouldn't have happened this way, we wouldn't have had a related donor. We would have had an unrelated donor. We don't know if the transplant would have taken the way that it has, and so it's just crazy. But yeah, she is the best case that the doctors have seen so far. We've only really gotten good news from her. There's nothing that we're not having to wait on surgeries or anything like that. It has been such a blessing to go through the hard times and then come out and just to be able to enjoy these good times that we do have and be grateful for the times that we do have here at home, just to be together and all that. To have a healthy kid right now is just such a blessing. So don't take your blessings for granted, to say the least. But yeah, she's only seen annually now, so that is a huge accomplishment for us. So yeah, we only go up there one time a year. She sees all her doctors within a week, and then we come back home. So yeah, but this is just a little bit about her diagnosis and her journey so far. But I thought I would share some of it. So far, there still is no cure for Hurler syndrome. So if you want to find out more about that, you can go to the NPS Society. They have a website, and they have all the information that you could think of about it, and they can really, you could really read in depth about what it does, what they do, what Hurler syndrome does. There are a bunch of different types of NPS. So if you want to find out more about those two, you can go to their website to find that all out. You can also make a donation there if you want. All of it goes towards researching to find a cure. But yeah, that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that you were able to take something from this, learn a little bit of something, maybe tell someone else about Hurler syndrome, because through more awareness comes a cure. So I appreciate you watching this video. And yeah, I will see you on the next video. Bye.